Hello dolls and welcome back to another video. Welcome to the final episode of my Black History Month series. Today I want to take you back on a little trip on the Soul Train. Soul Train was such a groundbreaking TV show in the early 1970s, and until today it is one of the longest running TV shows in American TV history. It had such a huge impact not only on pop culture and music of the time, but also on the civil rights movement. And so I felt like this was the absolute perfect video to close Black History Month. So without any more talking, get your luggage and all aboard the Soul Train. For 35 years, Soul Train wasn't just a television show. It was a cultural phenomenon, a weekly ritual, and a vibrant celebration of Black music, dance, and fashion. Every Saturday, households across America gathered around their TV sets, eager to be transported to a world of electric performances, dazzling style, and unfiltered joy. It was more than entertainment, it was a movement. From the moment that iconic animated train rolled across the screen, accompanied by the unmistakable voice announcing the Soul Train, viewers knew they were in for something special. This was where the latest dance moves were born, where trends were set, and where Black artists, often overlooked by mainstream platforms, had a chance to shine. The show launched the careers of legends like Mayfield and the Jackson 5, while also propelling stars such as Vivica A. Fox, Jody, Watley, and Rosie Perez into the limelight. But Soul Train wasn't just about the music. It was about representation, community, and the unshakable spirit of Black creativity. Even now, more than 5 decades after its groundbreaking premiere, its impact still reverberates. The Soul Train line remains a staple at weddings and family gatherings. Its fashion continues to inspire designers, and its legacy as the hippest strip in America is as undeniable as ever. The seeds of Soul Train were sown in 1965 at Chicago's WCIU-TV, a UHF station that began airing youth-oriented dance programs like Kitty A Go-Go and Red Hot in Blues. Red Hot in Blues, with its predominantly African-American in-studio dancers, proved particularly influential, foreshadowing the cultural impact to come. Back then, Don Cornelius was a newsreader and a backup DJ at Chicago's radio station WVON, before joining WCIU in 1967 as a news and sports reporter. In his 20s, while working there, Don Cornelius reported on social unrest and met figures like Reverend Jesse Jackson and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Tony Cornelius, his son, later said, "My father initially just wanted to do a show that presented Blacks in a positive light, because there was nothing like that going on. I mean, the only thing that you saw about African Americans was on the news where they were being arrested or something." Beyond his broadcasting duties, Don Cornelius also promoted and emceed local concerts at Chicago area high schools, calling his traveling show the Soul Train. This experience paved the way for his television venture. In 1970, with the support of a sponsorship deal from Chicago-based retailers Sears, Roebuck & Company, Cornelius brought his Soul Train to the television. The show premiered on WCIU-TV on August 17 of 1970 as a live black and white weekday afternoon program. The low-budget debut featured Jerry Butler and The Emotions as guests, with Cornelius getting an assistant in local professional dancer Clinton Gent, who later transitioned to producer and a secondary host. In 1970, when Soul Train premiered, television was vastly different from what it is today, characterized by a stark lack of diverse representation. Black people were frequently relegated to stereotypical and often demeaning roles, reinforcing harmful and inaccurate portrayals. The industry itself suffered from a severe lack of diversity both in front and behind the camera, limiting opportunities for Black actors, writers, and producers. Moreover, programming was often created with a predominantly white audience in mind, frequently sidelining or misrepresenting Black experiences and perspectives. This landscape existed against the backdrop of the civil rights movement and the burgeoning Black Power movement, both of which challenged existent social norms, but whose impact was slow to translate to the television screens. The television industry was dominated by the big 3 networks: ABC, the American Broadcasting Company, CBS, Columbia Broadcasting Systems, and NBC, the National Broadcasting Company, further limiting programming options and diverse viewpoints. It was within this context of limited and often negative representation that Soul Train emerged as a revolutionary force, offering a platform for positive and authentic portrayals of Black culture, music, and dance, directly challenging existing stereotypes and showcasing the richness and diversity of Black experiences. The show's influence extended beyond entertainment, impacting fashion, music, and dance trends for both Black and white audiences, and ultimately paving the way for greater representation and diversity in television. Soul Train's immediate success attracted the attention of Johnson Products Company, the makers of Afro Sheen hair products. They became co-sponsors, enabling the show's expansion into broadcast syndication. Cornelius and the syndicator originally targeted 25 markets outside of Chicago, but only 7: Atlanta, Birmingham, Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia purchased the program when it began airing weekly on October 2nd of 1971. By the end of the first season, however, Soul Train had expanded to the other 18 markets too. At the same time, Soul Train practically stood alone as a commercially produced television program created by Black people for Black audiences. The only other nationally available show by and for Black viewers was the public television series Soul. With syndication came the move to Los Angeles, which became the show's home base for the remainder of its run. Soul Train was part of a broader trend syndicated, niche audiences music programs alongside shows like Hee Haw and The Lawrence Welk Show. While Don Cornelius relocated to Los Angeles, a local version of Soul Train continued production in Chicago. Cornelius simultaneously hosted both the local and the national programs before focusing solely on the national edition. Production in Chicago continued, with Clinton Gent hosting episodes on WCIU-TV until 1976, followed by reruns until 1979. The syndicated version found a home on CBS-owned WBBM-TV in Chicago at its launch, later moving to WGN-TV in 1977, where it remained for the rest of its Chicago run. At its core, Soul Train was an ensemble production. Musicians, dancers, comedians, and special guests came together to create dazzling yet intimate spectacles. It was a place where icons like Patti LaBelle, Marvin Gaye, and Little Richard mingled with audience members, dissolving the barriers between stars and fans. Richard Gay, the producer of the Soul Train Broadway musical, recalls its significance. The day Soul Train was supposed to come on, we all knew we had to have our chores done and everything together so we could watch. Then you got older and started tuning in so you could use the dances at the parties that weekend. Soul Train's iconic opening sequence featured a Black animated locomotive, its smokestack billowing multicolored smoke and steam, journeying through various landscapes, from cityscapes to tunnels to outer space and around the Earth. The scenery surrounding the train evolved over the years, while the Soul Train logo remained a constant, accompanied by a signature song or instrumental piece. A particularly memorable element of the opening was the announcement of Soul Train, with the first word drawn out in a high-pitched imitation of a train whistle. Soul Train was also known for its popular catchphrases, referring to itself as
the hippest trip in America
at the beginning of the show. Two enduring segments became staples of the program. The first was the Soul Train Scramble Board, a game where two dancers had 1 minute to unscramble letters to reveal the name of that episode's musical guest or a significant figure in African American history. The host would describe the person's accomplishments, concluding with the phrase, "whose name you should know." Don Cornelius later revealed that the game was often rigged to ensure everyone won, avoiding potential embarrassment for the show or the African American community. Soul Train was a launching pad for countless artists, and its stage saw a dazzling array of performances that have become iconic moments in music history. There are 1,100 episodes of Soul Train, so there is no way for me to tell you about every single performance, but I kind of wanted to focus on a couple of the most iconic and most popular performances that Soul Train saw over the years. Starting with the legendary James Brown, the godfather of soul brought his electrifying energy to Soul Train multiple times, with performances like Sex Machine that showcases unparalleled showmanship and the tightest bands in the business. Another outstanding guest was Marvin Gaye. Performances like Let's Get It On highlighted his smooth vocals and sensual stage presence, solidifying his status as a soul legend. Known for their funkadelic sound and high-energy performances, Sly Stone and his band delivered unforgettable sets on Soul Train, often with extended jams and audience participation. And who knows if the Jackson 5 would have had the career they did without appearing on Soul Train. The young Michael Jackson and his brothers captivated audiences with their infectious energy and groundbreaking dance moves, including the introduction of the robot dance craze to a national audience. Curtis Mayfield's socially conscious lyrics and soulful sound resonated deeply, and of course, they found a space for Aretha Franklin. The Queen of Soul graced the Soul Train stage with her incredible voice and commanding presence, delivering performances that were nothing short of legendary. These were just a couple of examples of the incredible artists that performed on Soul Train, but there are a couple more I at least wanted to name drop here. Gladys Knight and the Pips, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Parliament Funkadelic, Chaka Khan and Al Green graced the Soul Train stage too. For most of its run, white performers on Soul Train were rare, and those who made it onto the show had to earn their place with black audiences. Elton John was the first white artist to appear on Soul Train in 1975, and his presence was a testament to Soul Train's role as a cultural gatekeeper. He was a kingsmaker, right? Richard Gay, the producer of the Soul Train musical, noted. At the show's height, you had people like Elton John going, "I have this giant audience that knows Crocodile Rock that doesn't look like me. How do I reach them?" Well, Soul Train was the answer to that. Another notable non-black guest was David Bowie. David Bowie appeared on the show in 1975 to perform Golden Years. He was a known admirer of black music and culture, and his appearance on Soul Train was a significant moment. But besides the music, there was another crucial part to the show, the Soul Train dancers, who soon proved that they were the real stars. The first dancers came from the local Los Angeles schools, Locke, Crenshaw, and Dorsey, and they all participated in line dancing, which highlighted the skills of individual dancers. While the dancers were not part of the organization's budget, they enjoyed the global travel. The Soul Train dancers were more than just performers. They were cultural trailblazers, moving to the rhythm of a generation and redefining what dance could be on television. Week after week, they transformed the studio into a living, breathing celebration of black joy, creativity, and self-expression, pioneering moves that would make their way from the small screen to the dance floors across America. The famous Soul Train line, where dancers, often in pairs or solo, strutted, spun, and locked their way down an aisle of cheering peers, became a sacred rite of passage, a dazzling display of individuality that captured the essence of the show's free-spirited energy. Beyond just dance, their fashion statements were just as influential. Afros, bell-bottoms, sequins, and platform shoes flooded living rooms across the country, inspiring trends that still echo today. But these dancers weren't merely background figures. Many would go on to shape entertainment in profound ways. Rosie, Perez, Jody, Watley, and Jeffrey Daniel all got their start as Soul Train dancers, with Daniel even popularizing the backslide, a move Michael Jackson would later make famous as the Moonwalk. Their fluid movements, effortless cool, and boundless energy made Soul Train an institution, proving that dance wasn't just an accompaniment to music but an art form in its own right. Through their spins, splits, and electric footwork, they didn't just entertain, they defined an era. Soul Train's cultural impact extended beyond music. It became a radical force, thanks in parts to its partnership with Johnson Products, the makers of Afro Sheen. For the first time, black hair, whether in gleaming afros or soft curls, was showcased on the national stage, defying Eurocentric beauty standards. And then there was the fashion. Bright colors, textured fabrics, dashiki, sequin blazers, bell-bottoms, exaggerated collars, and flowing blouses. Fashion on Soul Train wasn't just about looking good. It was a bold statement of black style, creativity, and cultural pride. Every episode was a runway of the latest trends, with dancers and musical guests alike pushing the boundaries of self-expression through clothing. In the early 1970s, the show embodied the essence of funk and soul. Wide lapels, psychedelic prints, suede vests, knee-high boots, and an explosion of afros. Bell-bottoms and platform shoes became wardrobe staples, reflecting both the flamboyance of the era and the show's dynamic energy. As disco fever took over in the 1970s, Soul Train fashion shimmered with sequins, metallic fabrics, and body-hugging silhouettes, mirroring the glitz and glamour of the club scene. The show provided a space where Black people could see the best versions of themselves at a time when television often reduced them to stereotypes or erased them entirely. I just want to add here that Don Cornelius had one of the best 1970s styles. When you look back at pictures of him hosting and videos, he always looks so good. He's always wearing the latest trends. It's all coordinated. It suits him so well. He was such a fashion icon back in the day. Soul Train arrived at a time when America was still reeling from segregation and the ongoing struggles of the Great Migration. Veronica McComb, Dean of the College of Arts and Science at Bryant University, explained, quote, "Black bodies were constantly endangered to a high degree. To be in a safe and protected space to express themselves physically in the form of dress and dance was just, as they say, it was everything. If you're away from home, like many African Americans were as part of the Great Migration, Soul Train definitely gave you that stronger sense of home. It was a cultural anchor, a conversation starter, a means of connection in a world still rife with discrimination." In 1987, Soul Train expanded its reach by creating the annual Soul Train Music Awards, celebrating the best in African American culture, music, and entertainment. After a remarkable 22 years as the show's host, Don Cornelius stepped down as a host in 1993 after 22 seasons. The show continued with a series of celebrity hosts, before Misto Clark, Shamar Moore, and finally Dorian Gregory took over hosting duties, with Gregory staying until the show's end in 2006. Despite its long run, Soul Train's ratings eventually declined, falling beyond 1 in the years following. This decline, coupled with a change in television affiliations and the closing of Tribune Entertainment, put the show's future in jeopardy. After a period of airing best-of episodes, Soul Train officially ceased distribution in 2008. For years, Don Cornelius maintained tight control over Soul Train's content, preventing clips from appearing on platforms like YouTube and discouraging unauthorized distributions on DVD. However, in 2008, he sold the rights to the Soul Train library to Mad Vision Entertainment, opening the archives to new forms of distribution, including a YouTube channel and DVD releases. Mad Visions also partnered with BET to relaunch the Soul Train Music Awards and broadcast archived episodes. In 2011, Magic Johnson's consortium acquired the rights, envisioning potential film projects, stage adaptations, and cruises. Today, all rights to the trademarks of Soul Train are owned by Paramount Global. And there actually is a Broadway musical now. Don Cornelius' contributions to television were recognized with his induction into the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame in 1995 and completed with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2006. Sadly, on February 1st of 2012, Donald Cordes Cornelius passed away at the age of 75 at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He died following an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Until his death, Cornelius had been closely involved with his brainchild, Soul Train. Soul Train is often compared to American Bandstand, but Don Cornelius was keen to establish his show as a unique entity. While he acknowledged Bandstand as a model, he eventually distanced himself from the comparison. In the 1970s, a short-lived competitor called Soul Unlimited was launched by Bandstand's host Dick Clark, but it was quickly cancelled after accusations of trying to undermine Soul Train. Cornelius, though a pioneer, had relatively conservative views on music, particularly hip-hop, which he felt did not reflect positively on African American culture. Despite featuring rap artists on his show, he openly admitted his lack of understanding of the genre, his disapproval, a stance that eventually led to him stepping down as a host and the show's decline in influence. His disapproval of more sexually suggestive dance moves also created a disconnect with younger audiences. This cultural disconnect was even satirized in the comedy show In Living Color. Despite these later controversies, Soul Train's impact on music, dance, and black culture remains undeniable, and its legacy is celebrated. It breaks my heart that Don Cornelius, who fought so much, who put his heart and soul into this show, had to step down. But I have to say, I kind of get it. And I think it wasn't only that remark that led to him stepping down, it was just the final straw. I think when you're hosting a program like Soul Train that is very much catered to the youth, that is catered towards people from the ages of maybe like 10 to 25, it is hard to narrate that once you're in your 40s. And as much as it pains me, because I can only imagine how painful it was for Don to step away from his big love and this show that he created, he put his heart and soul into it. I feel like it was the only way to save it, but then it turned out it did not save it because ratings declined. So I feel like as legendary as Soul Train was, it also only worked during this specific time period. And this seems so paradox because he had to fight so hard to find this place, to get a space on TV. Yet I think he found the perfect moment. It may have not felt like that when they started out, but the huge success they had in the 70s and 80s definitely proved that he was there at the right place at the right time. Soul Train was more than just a television show. It was a revolution wrapped in rhythm, a love letter to black culture, and a beacon of pride during a time when America was still learning to see black excellence for what it truly was. Born in the heart of the civil rights movement, it gave a generation a place to be seen, to be celebrated, and to move freely in a world that often tried to silence them. It wasn't just about the music or the dancing. It was about representation, about proving that black joy, talent, and creativity belonged on the television screens just as much as anywhere else. Week after week, Soul Train brought people together, not just in living rooms, but across generations. It was where icons were made, where trends were born, and where history unfolded in the beat of a bass line. It was a space where young dancers could dream, where artists could shine, and where the spirit of people could be felt in every groove, every note, every spin down the Soul Train line. The echoes of Soul Train live on in music, in dance, in fashion, and in the very fabric of black entertainment. It paved the way for everything, from MTV to BET, from music videos to modern-day dance challenges. But more than anything, it proved that black culture is not just influential, it is foundational. And as long as the music plays and the beat goes on, the spirit of Soul Train will never fade. So let's end this episode just like Don ended his show.
Hope you'll climb aboard next week on these same stations, and you can bet your last money it's all gonna be a stone gas, honey. Always in parting, we're gonna wish you love, peace, and soul.
So that is it for today's video. That is it for my final episode for Black History Month. That is it on Soul Train. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I have to say, I watched a lot of Soul Train episodes over the last couple of weeks, and they always put me in the best mood. Whenever I don't feel good or I just want to get a little bit of extra energy, I now put on Soul Train, and it never fails to make me feel better. It truly was such an important show because even though it was an entertainment program, the underlying messages of bringing black people into the spotlight was so powerful. And Don Cornelius laid the groundwork for so much more than what he could have ever imagined. So yeah, that is it. Leave a comment down below telling me which Soul Train performance was your favorite. And also, did you ever catch a Soul Train episode on TV? Because that would be my dream. I read that there were loads of reruns in the 90s and early 2000s. I was never able to see one, it's not airing here, but I loved watching back so many clips and episodes on YouTube. The sun is coming in so nice today. The weather has been horrible here for several weeks now, and it is so wonderful to finally have a little bit of sun. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed my Black History Month series. Let me know which of these videos was your favorite. I made a video on black models, one on the civil rights movement, one on Motown, and now this final one on Soul Train. And I would love to know which one of these was your personal favorite. I hope you have a beautiful day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine. Take yourself some time to focus on you and your mental health today, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye dolls!